If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a Real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a Real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your Real ID at tsa.gov/Real ID. That's tsa.gov/Real ID, or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff.
Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
You blind, baby.
Yeah! How we doing out there?
Blind, baby. You're blind from the facts.
It is the one and only, your friendly neighborhood. Reese on the radio, News Talk 1080, WTIC. And I'm playing this old Heavy D record for a reason. For those of you who remember old Heavy D from Mount Vernon, New York, it's a little song he had called You Can't See What I Can See. I was thinking about that today in the opening monologue. I always look at politics, pop culture, and all this stuff from a particular point of view. Sometimes I ask myself, why is it that most people don't see what I see? Why don't they see it the way that I see it or view it the way that I view it? I can't understand it, but they don't. And it may be because they're not taking a lot of time. Maybe it's just a knee-jerk reaction to certain things, being for or against something. But I dig deep, and something didn't sit right with me today. And I was supposed to talk about it on Friday, but there was so much that we got into. We had the beautiful wife on, Mrs. on the radio, Roseanne, on the program. We had to talk about the Schechter school, the Solomon Schechter school scandal that's gone off the rails ever since then. It's gone in so many different places. We got the second part of our interview with the second parent coming up tomorrow. And we didn't get to this one story that I wanted to get to, and that was about these protests, one in particular with Senator Dick Blumenthal. 1 hour, just a 1 hour protest at a Tesla dealership. And I had this audio, this companion audio about these protests that are going on. It got a little bit of burn, the Dick Blumenthal protests. Got a little bit of burn in the news. Connecticut Mirror's got a story about it, which I'm looking at here. And again, like I said, I look at these things differently than a lot of people. I'm not more intuitive than most. I'm not smarter than anybody else. I just don't take things on its face. Inquisitive, I would say I am. I'm sorry, I hear that volume in the background. I apologize. I got to mute that. Like I said, I'm inquisitive. Something makes me curious. So I got to do the opening monologue by reading a little and then backing it up with some audio, some companion audio that I didn't get to Friday, so bear with me. Connecticut Mirror headline reads, May Day rallies gather crowds in Connecticut and across the U.S. Hundreds of people gathered outside the state capitol on Thursday to protest the actions of the Trump administration and a push to Connecticut state legislators to pass priorities on housing and health care. The Hartford rally was one of thousands happening across the U.S. to commemorate May Day, or as it's known around the world, International Workers' Day. It was fairly focused on Connecticut and the issues coming before the General Assembly. But that same frustration was channeled at President Donald J. Trump and his first 100 days. The overriding sentiment from many of the participants was that Connecticut needs to fill the gaps in federal funding and potential cuts to critical services and programs. Pay very close attention to that. I'll read it again. The overriding sentiment from many of the participants was that Connecticut needs to fill the gaps in federal funding and potential cuts to critical services and programs. Some raised concern that state officials may be too fiscally cautious. This goes on and on to talk about what is the governor and the legislature going to do if Donald Trump plans on taking out his frustrations on a sanctuary state, sanctuary cities, on DEI programs, things that have been boondoggles in the state, just fleecing federal tax dollars and putting it on all of these projects that no one asked for, no one voted for. What are they going to do with that loss of federal money? And then it dawned on me. I don't know why. It came out of somewhere. I don't know why, but I'm going to ask you. Hear me out. It may sound crazy, but think about this. Connecticut Democrats, I'm going to plead to you to join Donald Trump on one policy. Just one. It's the policy that guys like Dick Blumenthal and Chris Murphy have been belly-hooing about since Donald Trump took office. And that is tax breaks for the wealthy. Now, I know Democrats are reeling now, saying, hell no, Reese, come on. That's our biggest problem in the world, is that Donald Trump is going to give all of these tax breaks to his cronies. Yes, I hear you. But remember the good that it will do. Does anybody remember that little scandal with the hot mic situation? A particular representative said, just tax my people. They don't even know that it's happening. Do you remember that? I remember it. And let's be honest, that's exactly what Ned Lamont wants to do here in the state, to pay for all of the goodies that everybody else is going to get. Right? Just continue to raise taxes. That's been the sentiment. That's all we read about for the last couple of weeks, is how are we going to get these tax proposals? How are we going to get these proposals passed that are going to raise taxes on the wealthiest of the nutmeg state? Well, think about it. Do you think the wealthiest in Connecticut would mind so much if Donald Trump gave tax breaks to those very people you're going to tax so that you can make up for the federal dollars you're going to lose? Now, again, I'm no genius, but doesn't that make sense? You want to tax them anyway, right? Instead of nickel and diming them from 6.9% to 7.9%, why do that? If you go along, Dick Blumenthal, Chris Murphy, go along with the big, beautiful budget that you claim is going to give tax cuts to the rich. Plenty of rich people live right here in the state. And they won't mind so much if they get taxed locally. And you can pay for every little ridiculous program you want to push through legislation. Why fight it? Isn't it what you want? Now you won't get so much pushback. They'll be down with that. They'll say, hey, Donald Trump, we helped him give you that tax break. Now pay your fair share here in the state. We can fund all those things with the federal dollars that we're going to lose anyway. You just pay a little more. You got a tax break. I don't understand it. Am I crazy? I don't think I'm crazy. It all makes sense to me. Because as soon as I can get, and again, look, I don't want to hear from the usual suspects. I really do. If you are on the left, if you believe in taxing the rich, especially in this state, if you wholeheartedly believe that they're not paying their fair share, why not give them the opportunity to do that by helping the federal government give those rich folks who do live in the state those tax breaks? Business owners, billionaires, millionaires, they won't feel so bad. Then you don't have to nickel and dime them. You can give them a tax increase proportional to the tax break that they got through the federal government. And they'd be justified because technically they'd be losing nothing. It's a zero-sum game. It is. Whatever it was, the break was that Donald Trump gives those millionaires and billionaires, you tax them for it. Nobody loses anything. Then these people can truly say they're putting their money where their mouth is. Nobody loses anything. If Donald Trump gives them a 30% tax decrease, you tax them 30%. They're going to vote for you anyway, Ned. Come on. They're going to vote for you, Johanna. They're going to vote for all of you. They're never going to vote against you. This state has been voting for Democrats, and Democrats tax and spend Democrats forever. And I'm not hearing anyone who's even thought about proposing it. How else are you going to get money from these people? You're going to put a roadblock in front of these tax breaks and then tax them, those people who didn't get those tax breaks in your state, and you think that you really expect your campaign to flourish in that? So you're going to cut off the tax break, you're going to tax them more, and then you're going to ask them for money to endorse your campaign? Come on. None of that makes sense to me. And I don't think it does to you either. I would just vote for it. But I digress. Let me move on. I would suspect that Dick Blumenthal, with everything that we know about him, on Saturday when he ran this ridiculous Tesla protest for an hour on Saturday, I would suspect that he knows a little bit about what I'm about to play, because of the people who are involved in many of these protests. Now, I'm only playing this, to be honest, to rub some noses in their own little mess in the carpet by trying to test your humble correspondent on what he knows. And when I say something over this mic, I usually can back it up. In fact, 9 times out of 10, I can back it up. So I'd like to share with you some audio. Dick Blumenthal, Chris Murphy, whoever's playing those protests in and around the state, they're all fabricated. They're all false. They're all false. They're all faux. Nothing about them are real at all. They do nothing but create optics, and they're all paid for. Let's start with the smaller stuff first. You may remember a guy by the name of Adam Swart. I played some audio of him talking to a gentleman over at One American News Network. And you probably would blow that off and said, One American News, they're a propaganda news site. Nobody listens to them. Fine. How about Chris Cuomo over at News Nation? How would that suit you? He's more credible, right? You like Chris Cuomo. Here is Adam Swart explaining to Chris Cuomo why Crowds on Demand is a legitimate pay site for protests.
You guys are paid the big bucks, right? Is it not then reasonable to say that a protester can't be paid a few $100s to go out to a rally to support a cause that they agree with. So is Tugger sincere when he's getting paid tens of millions and a protester is not sincere when they're getting paid hundreds? I feel like I just question this idea that getting paid money to demonstrate in any way delegitimizes you and your beliefs.
So they're trying to normalize the protest by saying, look, we're just paying for people. It doesn't mean that they're not enthusiastic about the causes. They're just getting paid for it. It should make sense. If you thought that was silly, here's a dumber one. Perhaps part of the reason why people aren't protesting is because they can't get childcare, and places like Crowds on Demand, they're just helping out that little mom or dad who can't get a babysitter for an hour on Saturday.
A protest is supposed to be a demonstration of political will from a non-professional. It's not, I'm a professional protester. That's what I do. That's what actors are.
No, but Chris, do you not understand the idea that for some people, going out to a protest is a lot easier than others? Working class people in this high inflation economy, right, have trouble expressing their views because they can't take time off to go to a protest. They don't have easy access to childcare. These are things you have eloquently spoken about on your show. So do you believe protesting should just be the purview of the wealthy? What we do at Crowds on Demand is we connect people who are passionate about a cause with compensation to go out in favor of that cause that they are already passionate about. So there's nothing in any way untoward about that concept.
You're so right, Lori, right? He could have been implying this for the last 4 years. Crowds on Demand could have been going out there protesting anything for that matter, protesting Republicans and protesting Donald Trump events, but they didn't do it. They waited until, Crowds on Demand has been around for years. Around for years. But now all of a sudden, these are people who couldn't get, I keep asking myself, what about all the protests that we saw during Black Lives Matter? Was Antifa getting paid? Were the Black Lives Matter protesters getting paid? Yes, they were. That's exactly right. But this is my favorite one, to get back to Dick Blumenthal before we go to break. Dick Blumenthal held a protest at a Tesla dealer, didn't he, for an hour? Well, Adam Swart here had some interesting insight on these quote-unquote real Tesla protesting. You probably are not going to like this, Dick.
What is your basis of suggesting that some Tesla protests are funded by hedge fund managers?
Well, Chris, follow the money. And I want to be very clear that I am not singling out anyone in particular. But when it comes to Tesla, there are people who have lost hundreds of billions of dollars shorting the stock. Now, News Nation has a smart audience, but shorting a stock is when you're betting against the stock. You make money when the stock goes down.
They've made billions. They've made billions. They haven't lost billions. They've made billions.
Yeah, but Chris, these guys over the years, over 15 years, they've lost a ton of money overall betting against Musk and betting against Tesla. These guys are not political, right? They're apolitical. They're not Democrats or Republicans. They see an opportunity with Musk's involvement in the Trump administration to recoup some of their losses or to make bigger gains, right? If you simply follow the money, and there's more and more evidence coming out that that these guys have some role. Again, not naming anyone in particular, but
I got you.
If you follow the money and you look at just how big the Tesla boycott movement has grown, it really does pass the smell test that there is a lot of money behind it.
Perhaps we should start looking at fundraising. Huh, Dick? Maybe we should start looking at fundraising dollars when that time comes up. See how much money actually ends up in certain coffers. Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. It wasn't like I didn't warn you. It's all fake. It's all phony. Nothing about it is real. It's Democrats. It's Democrats. There's nothing real about them. We'll take a break. We'll come back. More news, more views when we return. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC. We're just going back in. Oh, there we go. Oh, no, I didn't know you were just going to go back in. I thought you were still going to play the Idman bumper music. Anyway.
Oh, I got you. My bad.
Yeah, it's okay. Just bumper music. No bumper music. You can play the bumpers. We're back. It's Reese on the radio, NewsTalk 1080 WTIC. Just a miscommunication there. We got Justin in filling in for Roland today. And I should have been more clear. My apologies, sir. Anyway, I'm only reason why I'm saying this or I'm bringing this up is because I was just looking online. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but apparently James O'Keefe, who's very popular around here, has got a video that is dropping on Wednesday, and he has just put a teaser out there. And during the break, I was going through the video, and it goes by so fast. By the way, if you're interested, just go to James O'Keefe's X page so you can see it. It's a quick teaser, and it's just quick photographs. Two individuals I cannot recognize, but I'm almost positive, and I'm asking all of my Reese on the radio researchers out there to go watch this video, slow it down, and tell me if what I just saw was right. I know for a fact that this is about Jeffrey Epstein. I know that this video, apparently there are two stories that he's doing that are supposed to break on Wednesday. One is associated with Pfizer, and the other is associated with Jeffrey Epstein. But inside the video, he has a quick clip that says, AS founder outed or forced out. That's the line. Forced out. In fact, it's right here on my screen. Right there. Forced out is one of the clips. So there has been this rumor that suggests that when James O'Keefe did an undercover investigation with one of the employees of Pfizer, in this undercover sting, it was this young black male that he was talking to, and then James O'Keefe went to the restaurant to confront him, as James O'Keefe has been known to do. If you watched any of his videos, he will go there to confront them, and either the person will run or they will talk. More often than not, they dodge. They bolt. But this one particular kid went bananas in the video. Go check it out. It's crazy. And that was one of the last videos that James O'Keefe did with Project Veritas. Very soon after, he was removed from Project Veritas. He pretty much ousted him. Project Veritas has gone through plenty of funding problems because James O'Keefe was the face of Project Veritas. He starts the O'Keefe Media Group, and he goes back and forth to trial with them and all this other stuff. He finally gets this injunction lifted and stuff. So this new investigation that he's on, it was always implied that this was the biggest investigation of his career. And he had been telling people, I am not suicidal. I did not commit suicide. In fact, he released a video that said that this particular one could get him killed. His words. Now, whether or not that's an overreach or whether or not he's bloviating, I don't know. But again, he just put out the clip, and I'm looking at it, and some of the pictures that are on there appear to be bigwigs that he's got on hidden camera. But the one person, you'll see it, and please, like I said, go and watch the video. Let me know in the chat room or pick up the phone, 860-522-WTIC. One of the grainy pictures in this trailer appears to be Attorney General Pam Bondi. And that's why I'm saying this appears very riveting. So I don't know what to make of it yet. Like I said, I'm watching it. Please go look at it. If you see something that I didn't in that trailer, please let me know. But it's 2 days, T-minus 2 days before it drops, and then we'll see exactly what it is with all of that. Also, today I'm going to talk about William Tong in his weekend appearance talking about Avelo Airlines. He was talking about other stuff as well, but Avelo Airlines, he appears to be bogarting them, as we used to say back in the day. He's browbeating them. He's trying to shame them. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, this guy rarely ever calls early, so I'm going to take it real quick. What you got, White Mike? What's going on, sir?
Oh, man, there is like so much stuff going on in the world. The leading GOP candidate for lieutenant governor in Virginia, the GOP decided to go with an openly gay guy as the nominee.
Mm-hmm.
And he apparently has been busted posting nude photos to a gay porn site.
Yes, I heard this story, and he's not, having lived in that area, I'm not familiar with him as a power broker in that area. Is this guy like a nobody who they were trying to promote as the sort of, because he's supposed to take over for Winsome Sears. Is that correct?
Right. So Virginia is looking at a black woman and a gay man to top their ticket. To hell, man. What else? Let's see. Oh, did you hear about House Resolution 867?
No. Wait, now this is, again, this is national, so Washington. What is this?
So Representative Mike Lawler from New York introduced a House resolution that was targeted at punishing any person, organization, or business that participated in boycotting of a U.S. ally. It's meant to go after the BDS people, you know, the ones who don't want to support Israel.
Okay, and it doesn't. No one else outside of that. In other words, like Van Hollen, who's talking about boycotting El Salvador. Nothing like that.
No, it was Mike Lawler and 19 other House members, mostly Republicans, and of course, like not Adam Kissinger, but Jared Moskowitz, the dork from South Florida who wears the window paint.
Yes.
And this resolution, had it passed, was going to penalize people who boycotted an ally, we know which ally they're referring to, with $1 million fine and jail time.
Wow, jail time?
And yes, and the MAGA people stood up and said no. So like MTG made the announcement that it was going to get brought up. But what the hell kind of conservatives are these?
I don't know.
Put people in jail for having an opinion. You can boycott whoever you want.
But hold on. Now I'm going to stop you here. I don't know if you've heard me. You've known me long enough to know this, Mike. What do I say about New York Republicans? What do I say? They don't exist, right?
Oh, yeah, but they were all Republicans who backed them.
No, I understand that. But again, look, with all due respect, I mean, I don't use the term rhino often. I hate when people used to say that about Mitt Romney. I just call them Democrat light or Republican light. But look, I don't believe that there's a such thing as a New York Republican. I'm sorry, with the exception of maybe Long Island. Okay?
Well, yeah, but two of the guys who co-sponsored were from Texas.
Well, we'll have to look at that, because if they were from either San Antonio, Houston, or Dallas, that's almost like a New York Republican as far as I'm concerned.
So, I mean, my thing is, dude, I'm a free speech guy.
So am I.
I'm a free speech. I think you can say whatever you want. And it bugs me when you get these so-called conservatives like, I don't know, Dave Portnoy. Did you hear this nonsense?
About sending his the people who desecrated his place, as he calls it, sending them all out to Auschwitz so they could get a history lesson. Now wait a minute, hold on.
What the hell does he think?
No, hold on. Yeah. They agreed to go. He's not forcing anybody, but he didn't like it. He didn't like the representation inside of his business, and here's why. As a business owner, you know how that plays. That turns into, look at Dave Portnoy supporting anti-Semitism at his place. If he hadn't said anything, that's all that's about.
Well, this is fine and good, but the chutzpah of this guy to say, I'm going to hold their feet to the fire and do what I can. Like, buddy, one of them was a waitress and two were customers. You have zero power to do anything except trespass these people.
Yeah, but that's absolutely true. I think in his case was, and again, I'm giving him a benefit of the doubt, is that Portnoy, I'm going to put this lightly, Portnoy is looking at this from a level of knowing that the news media hates his guts, and this don't look good PR-wise. They're going to find a way to pin this on him, and so he's got to do the outrage response, right? He's got to scream and holler and say things that he normally wouldn't have said, but him having this outrage, that gets paid more attention to, even though it's completely out of sorts and misguided at best. But then they leave him alone.
But it's not misguided, it's self-serving.
Well, yes,
because
of course.
If those guys walked in with a sign that said, I don't know, F the Pope.
Yes.
He wouldn't be paying for a trip to go to Vatican City for these people. He wouldn't care.
Hey, so, no, but you know what? I can't put that on Dave Portnoy. I get your outrage. It's sort of like, why is he being so bombastic about this and treating it like in some way, someone came and firebombed his place instead of treating it with...
why.
No, I know that he know why. I don't. Again,
it's because it offended him personally.
Well,
that's all, because you're talking about his people. They didn't say F Israel. They said F the Jews.
Right.
And Dave Portnoy is Jewish, so you're right.
So wait a minute.
Free
isn't it
speech.
right? Wait. But isn't it right for
your
him?
right to free speech only exists until you offend him.
No. Hear me out. Now, remember, he's saying that the fact that happened inside his place of business, someone could, if he had said anything and it happened at his place in business, you get everyone else to write the narrative thereafter. And Mike, you're well aware of that this is one of those situations where the media can create the frenzy, not only without your consent, but without your ability to push back, right? It can be the story, and then you're playing catch up or pick up when they've already established what the issue is. I'm just saying, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt on this one, regardless of it if it offended him. I'm just saying you get ahead of a story like that.
But he defangs that story with a picture of him doing his bar mitzvah.
In your view, Mike, in your view.
They're going to call him anti-Semite? He's Jewish.
No, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me? Do you believe that it's beyond... Hold on. Are you telling me that it's beyond the pale for the left to call a Jewish anti-Semite? They called Larry Elder the black... what was it? The black face of white supremacy. It's not beyond the pale for these people.
No, it's beyond the pale on that one. If they just said Israel, you'd have a point.
Did it matter that Ivanka is married to Jared Kushner? Did that help keep them from calling Donald Trump an anti-Semite? No, absolutely not.
Yeah, but those people are stupid, and Donald Trump is not Jewish. And what they're calling Donald Trump is a Nazi, which again is wrong. I'm just saying, dude, that these people talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk.
I agree.
Free speech is free speech, period. And for these people in Rochester, Minnesota, these soft black people who are calling for criminal charges against this woman, when did black people become so soft?
Oh, dude, wait. Criminal charges? Check this one out. I got this story coming up in the stupidest thing I read today. Nearly a year after the arrest in the N-word case, the judge finally cleared a conservative activist in Connecticut. Wait until you hear this story. They always had evidence that she didn't, but they were going to charge her with a misdemeanor for using the N-word that she never said.
I guess I'm just a rare bird and that I'm not offendable. Like, I am literally not offended. Not anybody can offend me. And I don't understand people that get bent out of shape. And, oh, by the way, last thing, on Friday when I called, one of your callers, referring to my rant about whatever I was ranting about, called me an idiot.
And did they?
Yeah, he said it was his right to call me an idiot.
Okay.
But he couldn't disprove anything I said.
No, he
just called me.
I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing, Mike.
And he's some supposed conservative.
I think that's
he was all left, but he can't disprove me.
I know that, and I think that's the case. And I talked about that ad nauseum, even with the people who were in the chat room about how offended they were. And I said, never addressing what he said and the fact that he said it. That's the only thing. It's like, he said that. I'm like, okay, are we going to address what he said? And that has no, and again, they believe that they should give that no credence. But I got to take a break. But I get your point. I get your point.
All right,
I appreciate you, buddy. All right, I will take more phone calls. Tom is in Bristol. Stay on the line, Tom. I'll get back to you on the other side of this commercial break to get to you. So stick around for that. That story, the stupidest story that the stupidest thing I read today is this story that came out of the Hartford Current. It's a year later they knew this woman did nothing of the sort because of video evidence. This took this woman a year to get her name cleared. We'll talk about that in about an hour. Yeah, about a half an hour. We'll talk about that. So we'll take more your phone calls and your views on all of this when we return. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Let the goblin stay locked in. Reese on the radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Don't forget at 4:05, literally after probably 4:06, we got James Rutkauski, who's going to be calling up the program. He is the president of the Hartford Police Union. We're going to talk to him about a story we did last week, and this pertains to an article that involved the New Haven mayor, Justin Elliker, saying that the police department is not here to help out the federal government. And I had asked the question of what does that mean? Because the federal government needs the assistance of the police department, not just for deportations. The DEA is the federal government. The ATF is the federal government. Is the local police not going to assist on those cases of drug dealers and gun runners who might be in your city? I found that odd. So we're talking to the police union president of Hartford, James Rutkauski, to talk to him about that and what's the stance of the local police in, let's say, federal cases that may come to this city of Hartford. We'll get that take from him when we speak to him in about 4:05, 4:06 this afternoon. I promised Tom we'd get to him on the phone. Let me get to him. Tom is in Bristol. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. Thank you for taking my call, Reese. So my wife and I just came from the Capitol building in Hartford, where they're having a hearing on homeschooling, like a homeschooling informational hearing.
Yes.
Did you hear about that?
Yes. Is this
They're not allowing any public comments.
Okay.
And so they had like the state commissioner of education, they had DCF commissioner, they had superintendents speaking, and it was all about like a subtle innuendo that children are being abused by homeschoolers, even though there's absolutely no evidence.
Right.
And,
so what they want is government, if I'm getting this right, Tom, they want government oversight on homeschooling. And they want to, in essence, get those kids back into the public school system in one way or another so that they can control the curriculum, because these parents have clearly had enough of the public school apparatus. I totally agree. So they cut off public comments on this hearing. So in essence, you were just to sit there while they debate it?
That's it. But you know what? There must have been like 3,000, and I'm not exaggerating.
Wow.
Homeschoolers and with their families, with kids. The whole legislative office building, all 3 floors, were filled with parents and kids, and they were chanting and everything. It was really amazing.
I can imagine. Cool. Do you think that show of force is going? Do you think that they'll just ignore that show of force? Because that's a considerable statement. With all the protests we've seen. No, I was just going to say, with all the protests that we've seen about everything else.
Yeah. But it was disconcerting. There was no media there except for like the Christian radio station, and so it wasn't being covered. But there was, they did allow testimony from one homeschool lawyer that this lady's been doing it for 30 years, and she was excellent. And she said, it's already in the books. It's been since this statute's in the books that requires that parents see that their children are educated, that they learn writing, reading, arithmetic, American history, and civics and geography, and this is in the books. Which the public school is not doing.
Yeah.
And here, talk about hypocrisy.
Tom, let me put you on hold real quick. I'm going to get some information from you. I've got to go to a break, but let me put you on hold. I'm going to get some info from you, and then I'll get in touch with you. Just hold on. Let's take a break. We got to get to our first check of the weather and traffic with Jason Catarina and Mark Christopher, who's in the BPS Traffic Center. How we doing out there, sir?
It's Reese on the radio. Ask your doctor if common sense is right for you. On News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Yeah, coming up shortly, we'll talk to James Rutkauski, who is the president of the Hartford Police Union. We'll talk to him about where is there a dividing line between federal agents and the police department? Are they being instructed to cooperate with them? Because, again, we read this article last week. In fact, I know I had it, but I think my wife grabbed it off my desk. I'm going to print it out again. But there was an article we talked about last week with regards to everybody losing their collective minds over these deportation orders, getting people out of the country who do not belong here. And Justin Elliker went so far as to say, look, police have enough problems to deal with. We're not going to assist the federal government to do their job. in doing their job. And my response to that was, what does that mean for other agencies that are doing federal investigations locally? There is no federal sort of involved, like there's no federal agency, so to speak. Each agency works locally. All things considered, the federal government is right in New Haven, right in his backyard. So what if they're doing an investigation that involves, trafficking of all sorts, be it drugs, be it guns? What about prostitution? What about child sex rings? What about any of that? To suggest that the federal government cannot ask for the police department to assist them? Perhaps they have a confidential informant in the area that can provide them with information. Do they have a standoffish approach with that? Are they not going to assist them? And look, I'll go this far. What are one of the biggest complaints about September 11th? One of the biggest complaints that were said, in fact, if you look at the 9/11 Commission, what did they say? Federal agencies were not communicating with one another. That it had been pretty much forbidden for them to communicate with one another. If I'm to believe that this is a recipe for disaster, isn't it? The federal government cannot communicate with local jurisdictions to find out what's going on and what they're walking into. That's why we're going to have Rutkauski in here. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic. Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center.
Reese on the radio is getting ready to drop some knowledge on WTIC News Talk 1080.
We're back. It's Reese on the radio. Plenty of news, plenty of views. Welcome to your Monday here on News Talk 1080 WTIC. On the phone with us is a friend to the room, celebrated police officer, union president, and we're really, really happy to have him here. I'm glad you came back. None other than James Rutkauski, who is, again, the president of the Hartford Police Union. Mark in West Hartford contacted you and let you know, or let me know that I could rely on you to ask this question, which we really don't talk to the police department when it comes to this issue that many of our legislators and attorney generals or attorneys general are talking about. And like Justin Elliker said in his article last week, saying that our police department isn't going to bother to assist the federal government in doing their job, which seems counterproductive. What say you, President Rutkauski? What's going on here?
I say that maybe the good mayor wants to talk to his police force and find out how many of his detectives could be assigned to detached duty on federal task force. Like, you want federal money, but you're in the same breath, you're saying that you don't want to help the federal government make sure the communities that your police are in charge of keeping safe. You don't want to help that out. Like, I don't understand that mentality.
I don't either, because I look at this from a limited resource point of view, right? The federal government kind of has an inexhaustible resource to not just put boots on the ground, but to investigate real high crimes, like really, vicious stuff. International, if not national trafficking of all sorts. As far as bad actors are concerned, it's not just the drug trade. It's also the labor trade. It's also the sex trade. There's a lot of that stuff going on. The gun running that happens in and around those investigations are usually done at an ATF and DEA level, but they have to go into these jurisdictions that the police department know fluently. Like, this is a part of their beat. Why wouldn't Justin Elliker want that to happen? Why wouldn't, the mayor of Hartford not want to have those police officers, because the police officers can't do it. Again, limited resources as they are, and they've got enough, things on their plate. Why not help them out by saying, hey, listen, when you go into this neighborhood, you want to deal with this guy, that guy, and this gal, and be careful because this person's got nothing to lose, or this person's got family members that they want to protect. So in essence, to cooperate with them so the federal government walks in there with both, with their head on a swivel, so to speak.
I think the officer safety issue is like, we all know our house the best. So if you're asking someone to come in and help, then it's absolutely in their best interest to make sure that somebody familiar with the players is there. And then you have someone, again, you have access to the federal government, which has the best equipment. So now we're making sure that our community is safe by using the best equipment. We have the Trust Act, right?
Yeah.
And it says A and B felonies. Well, that's great, A and B felonies, but so we can't notify, and we can't by the Trust Act, and Winfield and Gaston are pushing these things. So manslaughter in the second degree. So somebody recklessly kills somebody, and that person should remain. We shouldn't be notifying the federal government on that. Abuse in the first degree. Someone beats up their grandparents. Something. Let's keep that person in the community. Strangulation. Someone strangles their grandmother, for God's sake. Something. Let's let that go. The federal government doesn't need to know about that. So those are C felonies that, by the Trust Act that is passed, that the state of Connecticut wants the police officers in the community not to notify the federal government on. Like, why would you want those people? And whether you're an illegal immigrant or somebody in the community, do you really think there's a bunch of illegal immigrants out there that say, hey, no, I know this guy strangled his grandmother. We want him back. Keep him in here. Like, come on, that's the most ridiculous mindset in the world.
I don't think, and that's the crazy part, I don't think a guy like Justin Elliker could go out into the immediate public of New Haven and do an impromptu poll of individuals and ask them, hey, could this Abrego Garcia type, if he was living in New Haven, right? If he was a New Haven dad, as the media would refer to him, right? If he was a New Haven dad, does he believe that that the residents of New Haven would be advocating for that guy to stay in their community with the level of abuse that he inflicted on his wife? Waking up at 3:00 in the morning to punch her about the face. Justin Elliker is saying, yeah, we got to keep that guy here. It just seems crazy.
Look at the financial cost, and there's nothing really recent, but if you look at it, probably costs about $70,000 to house somebody for a year in the state of Connecticut in a prison. So if you just do 10 people, 700,000, you do 100 people, 7 million. Like, why would the federal government is saying, we will take that bill from you.
Yeah.
You will not have to spend $70,000 on somebody who shouldn't be here. We'll take that bill. I'm sure that the state of Connecticut could do pretty good with somebody cutting a check for $7 million in our school systems, in our programs. Like, there's plenty of room for that money. Like, why would we try to hinder that?
I don't get it.
And develop the trust.
I don't get it. Like there was a huge argument last week, James, that blew my mind, is that they were making this argument that we just found out that the state of Connecticut spent $1.3 billion to care for illegals in the state alone, and then had the audacity to put out an article that said if you deported those people, it would cost taxpayers $400 million. I'm good. You're telling me that I get $400 million. I lose $400 million in tax revenue, which is nothing more than sales tax, right, from each of those individuals. A tune of probably about $2,800. And the added expense is I don't have to spend $1.3 billion on them. Yeah, I'm taking that loss.
I don't understand when you look at the monetary issue and then you look at what my job is and the police department is to keep the community safe. You're asking us to keep people in the community that are not safe and are a danger to them. And you and I both know, when was the last time that Murphy or Blumenthal or somewhere in Hartford talking to illegal immigrants? As far as I know, neither of them are bilingual. Now, if you talk to people and you actually have conversations, which I've had, and they're like, yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm not interested in notifying somebody. And neither is the federal government coming around and picking up somebody who's in the country illegally working hard. And for people to sit there and say, well, they're going to pick them up. We can literally landed ground on a gnat in the middle of a desert. Do you think the federal government doesn't know where all these illegal aliens are? They do. They don't care. They're interested in keeping this country safe from the felons that are hurting our communities. Can we focus on those guys? Because that seems to be the focus, and we're looking like, no, we don't want to keep our community safe, and we want to take the monetary punch to the head on it. It doesn't add up for me.
What do you think? What's going to be, or if there is any, what's the protocol for officers in Hartford, Connecticut, when it comes to assisting federal agents? Are the police officers being threatened, or they're being told that there'll be a rip, or will they be punished in some way if they assist the federal government in any way? What's so far the standard protocol?
Reese, we're going to assist the federal government according to the Trust Act laws.
Okay.
And you look at that, and you have Prince versus United States, where the federal government can't commandeer police officers to enforce federal laws.
Right.
And the Trust Act really does a good job dancing around that. And they're looking to actually increase the restrictions on that right now, which absolutely drives me crazy because, again, ultimately we're looking at keeping the community safe, and we're going to, by law, adhere to what the state of Connecticut has asked us. But I look at that and go, maybe we just all need to take a step back and go, is this your agenda, or is this the agenda of the people we're trying to keep safe? Because I've talked to the people that we're trying to keep safe, and they're very happy when you have a felon who is destroying your community and illegally here sent away.
Wow. Let me throw you a curveball. We hadn't discussed this. I know we were going to talk about this, but this story came out over the weekend, and I know you're familiar with, is it Jill Kiddick?
Yes.
Yes, you are familiar with Jill. Did you see the article that came out over the weekend in the New York Post?
I did not have the opportunity to read that article.
Let me read you the headline as it relates to Jill Kiddick. For those of you who remember, former police officer Jill Kiddick. Here's the headline. Connecticut cannibal Tyree Smith was a serious threat to life in prison before his release, according to a report. Have you heard this?
Yes, I am familiar with that.
So according to this report, this bombshell report, was even though he has been released, or this sort of supervised release, this report suggests that before that, he was a serious threat to life. Someone's got to explain this because, I mean, he may very well be in danger. He could be in danger, or the community, for that matter, could be in danger by Tyree Smith. Is this going to be relitigated in some way?
I don't know. And my advice is, and Jill is a friend of mine, and to see what she's gone through and how she's had to fight the state of Connecticut on just getting, because the person has a mental health issue, Jill was unable to get a standing criminal restraining order against that person.
Right. Yeah.
And, like, are you kidding me? I mean, that's for everybody who said that guy's okay to go back on the street. I'll tell you what, how about he goes and lives in your house? If you're so confident that he's not a risk to the community, put him in your house and make him some bacon and eggs.
I know there's the thoughts behind this. And again, I didn't see it get any burn over here in Connecticut news in any way, but the New York Post released this article, and I thought it was astonishing. I think it was really, in fact, according to this, it was published yesterday. And I said, is that who I think it is? And I saw the picture, and I went, is that Tyree Smith? There's no way. And I'm like, so these people knew he was a threat and still voted to, I don't know. It's insanity.
It's maddening. And think of that on a personal level for someone like Jill that has to wonder where this person is. What are they doing? Do they mean her harm? Do they mean her children harm? That's absolutely insane. The PTSD that she has, and now you want to exacerbate that because everybody doesn't want to do the right thing and then say, listen, you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You're sitting in here. Sorry.
It's restorative justice on steroids, but I mean, it's a backwards world, man. It's like upside down day in the world right now. I don't even know what to make of it. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, everyone. President of the Hartford Police Police Union, James Rutkauski. You're always welcome here, and I thank you for coming back on short notice. Any parting news that you can give us on our search for a police chief? Is there any new news?
There is no new update, but Reese, as soon as I know something, I'll give you a shout.
Absolutely. And please, If you can, as soon as you do find out, let the new chief, whomever they may be, he or she, that there's an open invitation to join us here on Reese on the Radio, okay?
Absolutely, sir. Appreciate your time.
Much appreciated. Thank you. James Rutkauski, the president of the Hartford Police Union, as always, we'll get him back here whenever news breaks, especially with finding a new chief for the Hartford Police on this matter. When we're coming up, the stupidest thing I read today is a woman waited a year to have her case dismissed about using the N-word in a parking garage that videotape proved never happened. And why it took so long. Probably because they needed the story to last forever. But we'll give you the breakdown of that story if you haven't heard about it. It was in the Hartford Courant today. But this poor woman had to wait a year for that. Also, we will get into William Tong and the Avelo scandal. I find this odd. And correct me if I'm wrong. William Tong's family, father in particular, is from China. And he escaped China during the Chinese Civil War. And he came to America, William Tong, with his dad and his mom. Well, his mom was already here in 1960. But anyway, he comes here to this country. He's born in Hartford, and he decides to become a part of the progressive wing of the Democrat Party, and then decides that he's going to bully a private business, which brought me to one question. What side were they on during the Chinese Civil War? I wonder. People from Cuba leave Cuba and become conservatives here in the United States and kind of push back against communism. I just find it odd. I don't know. I could be off on the weeds on this one, but, you know, What happens when people usually come here from China? Usually they come here and they go, "No, China bad, communism bad. I vote for Donald Trump." That's what happens. I met him there. I was there on January 6th at the Ellipse. There were so many Chinese people who came in from China. And they were all conservatives. I can't join the progressive wing. No, they're communists. Just weird. Just weird. And then William Tong comes out and talks about how he wants to tell an American business that they're morally wrong and they cannot protect their bottom line. Weird. Just weird. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let's get back to the weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Stay locked in. Reese on the Radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
We are back. When we do get back, we'll take your phone calls. Also, Pam's going to be calling back. She was at this this town, or this meeting, as it were, talking about homeschooling that we talked about, or you just heard John Vila talk about at the top of the hour. We'll talk about that as well. In fact, there's Pam right there. We'll get to her in a short bit to find out exactly what happened. She was present there. I was just watching video on X. There were, every level of that was filled with people. So many parents there who supported. And again, how sad is it that the news media didn't want to go there and be a part of it? But then that's, not even be a part of it, but just report on it. It's absolutely insane. But, that's where we live. Also, like I said, stupidest thing I read today. I'll do that later. We're going to do it at about the 5 o'clock hour. And I need to get into this William Tong Avelo scandal, which to me, I just think it's scandalous that anyone in their right mind would listen to this guy and think his point of view on a private company and the business that they do, that he would be the arbiter of that business. Listen to him.
They intend to make money off of other people's misery. And the explanations that I've heard is, well, we're having trouble with our business, and the only way we can survive is by running ICE air. And if that's the only way you can survive, then it sounds like you've got bigger problems with your business. I've also heard, come on, it's legal. Can't we just operate this unethical, immoral business so we can survive? And the answer is no.
Really? And his answer is no. It's legal, but he believes it's moral. It's morally unethical. So the answer is no. We don't believe it's morally ethical for you to be running your business this way. So the answer is no. And I, the Attorney General, are going to use my might to go after you. This sounds like tyranny, doesn't it? They know it's legal. And how do we know it's legal? Let me explain to you how we know it's legal. Because Avelo did it during the Biden administration. That's why. They sent flights out during the Biden administration. No one wants to talk about it. They're scrubbing every article and any story about it, but go look it up. Do your worst. Avelo was doing it during the Biden administration, and not a person had a problem with it, much less William Tong. Never took any issue with it. It's punishing people for working with Trump. Who are they calling the Nazis again? I just want to know. Who are the fascists again? People that would tell a private business, you could do it under this guy, but you can't do it under that guy. Or we'll destroy you. Okay, Tong. That's okay. I've got some new news on you, too. I didn't forget about that. So when we come back, we'll take your phone calls. And it's an interesting story we didn't get into last week, but I think you'll like it. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Catarina and Mark Christopher, who's in the BPS Traffic Center. Sir, hey.
It's Reese on the radio. And don't say we didn't warn you on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Hey, by the way, programming note, tomorrow we're going to do something interesting we haven't done in a while. We're going to bring back Whack Job Wednesday. No, it's not tomorrow. Sorry, Wednesday. We're going to bring it back. Did you hear this story? I think it was a W. Bush official. I think this is. I'll correct this if I'm right. Yes, George W. Bush official. She was in an interview with Tucker Carlson, and here's in the New York Post. You can go check out the article. Bush official claims that the United States built a secret $21 trillion underground city for rich and powerful to live if there's a near extinction level event. Go check out the article in the New York Post. I think I'm going to post it on my Facebook page so you can read it if you need to know where the link is. But I want to talk about that because this was the only attention it got. I heard about this interview last week, and now a mainstream media company has picked it up, so I thought that was odd. Let's get to the phones. Pam, as promised, is on the line. Hey, Pam, how are you?
I'm good, Reese. How are you?
I'm great. So you were at this, what do we call this? Is it a protest? What was this? What were the parents there to do?
You know what? It's actually like an informational forum, in quotes here,
okay.
And that's from the Democrats,
right.
Okay, because they were trying to sidetrack anybody knowing about it and any Republicans being involved. But hats off to the Republicans, both Senate Republicans and House Republicans. They did a fabulous press conference, of which there were a ton of press there. I know one of the previous callers mentioned no press.
Right.
I think he just didn't see it, but the press conference had everybody there.
Okay.
Let's see how they reported, of course.
Right.
But there were thousands of people there. He was correct. But I want to go back to what you were just talking about. You were using this referred to Tong scandal. This whole issue right now with the homeschool families, with them trying to regulate homeschool more, is a scandal, in my opinion, as well, Reese, because this is nothing but a cover-up for state DCF failing.
Correct.
Okay, failing miserably. And not just in this Waterbury case. This Waterbury case that they're now trying to almost market as like, well, this is the reason we need to be careful with homeschool parents. Well, first of all, this was not a homeschool case. There was no homeschooling ever claimed, no paperwork ever filed, nothing.
Right.
DCF was notified over 20 times about this poor kid.
Yeah. That's an
Never
interesting...
followed up.
Pam, there's an interesting take about this. And again, it shows it's a term that I use. I don't expect anyone else to catch on to it. But it is the hustling backward nature of Ned Lamont. And let me explain to you, because you sort of laid it out. But this is what Ned Lamont does. He always hustles backwards. And what I mean by that is Here he is taking a kid who was in public school, who in essence, that public school system failed him, right? In S is his name. I know his real name, but his name is S, is what he's calling himself. They failed him. They never followed up when he disappeared from school, even though in classroom he was eating out of the garbage. He was malnourished, clearly dirty and unkept. They never did anything
at this. All of this was reported.
Yes.
Reese,
all of this was reported. Exactly. So the public school system fails this kid. Parents are homeschooling their children. And what does Ned Lamont propose? Because of the public school's failure to keep an eye on a kid who left their system, let's take all the homeschool kids and put them back into the system that failed this kid, which nobody looks at and goes, no.
Well, one of the Department of Ed speakers, I don't remember her name, stated the fact that while it's true that the homeschool children test much higher with the GED exam than public school children do. Okay, that's the state. Okay, a state employee, admitting to that and giving us the facts on it. They're concerned right now, and part of what I would consider the scandal is I think just the stats they were showing, there's a lot of kids going to private schools and homeschool.
Indeed.
They don't want to lose this. Think about the funds. At some point, the dollar is going to have to follow the child.
Right.
Then the unions have a big issue.
And don't forget, the other part about this, Pam, and I think you're alluding to it, is if the test scores in homeschooling and private school are ridiculous, right? They're through the roof. They got a graduation rate and a success rate that cannot be measured or even, associated with what they do in the public school, right? We're looking at 28% to 30% proficiency in reading and math, respectively. And we got homeschool and private school, banging it out the box. What do you get the public school if they incorporate homeschooling numbers in the public school numbers? Then they get to do what? They get to say, "See, we're not doing so bad because the people who are doing the heavy lifting are the private and homeschool parents."
Right. Correct. Yep. And you know what happens with regulations? As soon as they start with that, all that is a foot in the door. They're like, oh, well, we're not trying to tell the parents what they can teach and what books they can show their kids and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, yes, you are.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's nobody fooled by that.
Yeah,
so this is a scam.
You're a part of the system. They're going to make you a part of the system and then suggest you don't have to take any of the curriculum of the system.
Yeah, and then parents are going to have to worry about legal issues if they so choose to do something differently with their kids. Yeah, with no evidence that there's a problem with our homeschool. This is the Democratic Party.
What do you think? What do you think? Do you think there'll be a vote that they're going to vote this down, or do you think it's going to be successful, or is this going to have to be litigated outside of the halls of the legislature? Is this going to have to be litigated in court?
Well, that's the end result, but that's not part of the legislative process, litigating it really in court. That's something that occurs separately.
Okay.
Now, might it, if they push to go through with it, might someone take it that far? Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure some of these groups will organize, raise some money, and do so.
I don't see how you don't. You have close to 3,000 parents.
You don't either. I mean, they had, within a matter of 24 hours, they had thousands of people. Thousands. Okay, at the LOB. In all the rooms for overflow, which they did have TVs on so people could hear. Even then, all 4 layers of the building were filled with people. If that's not enough to say, wait, we better sit back here. We don't need to control this situation. Kids who are well-behaved, by the way, too. Tons of people brought their kids. This is not a homeschool issue. This is a state cover-up for a state agency that is failing, as we've known for many years.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think Lori's in the chat room. She says, Supreme Court has to get involved. I think this is a Supreme Court issue. This is, this is.
But you don't want our state Supreme Court.
Oh no! Don't go. Are you kidding me? Of course not. No. I want Supreme Court of the land to hear this. This has got to go right to the Supreme Court because again, look about this is parents' right. This is parents' rights. I mean, this is straight down the line. It's whether or not the parents, because remember, what it was all the argument about, when they said they didn't want the Board of Education to be defunded. They didn't want the Board of Education to be eradicated. They keep screaming and hollering us that they don't want school choice. Well, in this case, parents are taking their education of their kids. They made it available for parents to put this in their own hands, and now they're taking that right away from them. And I think at some point, individual freedom plays a role in this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when they try and bring up this, what I call a bogus excuse of abuse, of child abuse, of possibility of it, let's be perfectly clear, that's already illegal. It's highly illegal.
Incredibly illegal. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
That has nothing to do with homeschool. That's a whole separate issue. And if someone suspects it, it should be reported and it should be looked into thoroughly and followed up on.
Pam, you have, look, I know you have the hotline number. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, utilize it as more details. If you hear anything new, let us know. You know that we here at Reese on the Radio, the education issue in this state and across the country is something that we focus on. So please, I give you permission and I ask of you, just please keep us in the know because I know you're on the ground level and keep us informed as much as you can, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
My pleasure, dear. Okay, that's Pam, folks. She is on the front lines. We'll get to her. Let me take one more. Matty O is in Bristol. What's going on, Matt?
Hello, Mr. Hopkins. How you doing, sir?
Pretty good, sir. What's up?
Hey, let me respond to White Mike because I know you're protecting me, but so I wasn't calling him an idiot. What I was saying is if someone's going to call up and say something, they have every right to say it, and I have a right to say they sound like an idiot.
Yes, that's correct. I forgot what you said, by the way. You're absolutely right with what you said.
And the fact that he was offended, so didn't understand my underlying issue, should be something that he should consider. Because if he says something that is offensive, no one's going to listen to his underlying issue.
Understood. And you know what? I wish I had remembered that you were the one who said that because, again, that was your point. You said that Mike should have the right to say what he says, and I have the right to call what he says idiotic. I think that, and one doesn't outweigh the one doesn't outweigh the other. It's two people expressing themselves on two different sides of the aisle or two different sides of the issue. And I think you understand. I don't think in fact, he probably didn't hear you, and that's a thing in radio. People don't hear exactly what people say. They heard the word. He probably heard the word idiot and did not understand the context.
Well, but that's my point. Is what he said was so offensive to me. I'm not even going to repeat it, but what he said was so offensive to me that I'm not really going to listen to him anymore at that point. And all he heard was something offensive just against him, which wasn't really even offensive. And he shut down and wasn't hearing my point. So maybe when he argues a point, maybe he should think about that.
It's a good point, I think. And if he's listening, I'm sure that he heard it. Thank you, sir. And I appreciate you coming in to clarify. Is that it? Okay, yeah. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, who do I have next? Oh, Fulton. Fulton's in Waterbury. I haven't talked to him in a while. What's going on, sir?
Hey, what's going on? I was wondering if you got those videos I was able to email you. Or if you know
yes, I did. I did get them, and I was looking at them. Are you driving by? The lunatics? I did.
Yeah, that's where you're leaving. So I tell you what, there's another one on the 17th, apparently. I saw something on the I'll email you this one. It's called Dave's Eating Garlic Bread in the Park in Wallingford, 4 to 9. I'm going to email you that location. Try to get someone to cover there. But
eating garlic bread? Wait a minute. Why garlic bread? Why were they eating?
That's what I asked. Like, what's the significance to that?
Is there a symbolism there that I'm not understanding?
That's what I bizarrely, I said the same thing, right?
We may not be, maybe some symbolism that you and I don't understand, because I'm a big fan of garlic bread. I would hate to think that if I eat it, it means something. It means something else.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, what is the pasta place? The garlic bread's delicious, right? The garlic stick.
Right.
Exactly. Bring your own garlic bread to that event, apparently. I saw it on the sign. And then I really thought about the female cop from Waterbury that shot the video. I don't know if you got that video yet.
The female cop that shot
the video when they were clearing the house.
I don't know why I haven't seen that video. I may have to check into that. Nope, I did not.
So I'm gonna have to show you.
Okay, all right.
It's the town I used to work in.
Okay, you got it. I'm sorry. I had a million other things that I was focusing on. I may have missed that story. All right, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. We're going to take a break. Don't worry. Stay on the lines. We got plenty of news and plenty of views. We'll get to the stupidest thing I read today in New Haven. This woman who's been waiting in years for her charges to be dropped for using the N-word. She never did. That's in the news in New Haven. It was in the Hartford Current today, I believe. Is it today or was it yesterday? I don't even think it matters. Yeah, it was today. Also, it's Cinco de Mayo, which means absolutely nothing. I don't care. I don't care. I don't drink. My wife is Mexican, and she, every time this year comes up, she says to me, every time she goes, I hate this stupid so-called holiday. It drives her through the roof. She thinks it's offensive. Not inoffensive in the sense of, she doesn't think that she just doesn't, she's bothered by it. That's all I'm going to say. She's bothered by it. So we haven't even mentioned. Plus, we don't drink, so it doesn't matter. And I don't like, to be honest with you, in my view, I don't like the celebration of drinking in that regard. Like, at St. Patrick's Day, it's really difficult to enjoy St. Patrick's Day because it seems to be more focused on the drinking aspect than the actual day. It's like Christmas being more about gifts instead of the birth of Jesus Christ. I have a little bit of an issue with it. Not that I'm not telling anybody how to celebrate. Just celebrate. If you're doing a Cinco de Mayo thing, wear the sombrero till the wheels fall off. I don't care. I'm just saying it's uncomfortable for me. It's just seems like a drinking day. I don't know. It's just, that could be Friday, any other day of the week. Anyway, we'll get all into that later. Stupidest thing I read today coming up when we return, so stick around. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher, who's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, sir.
On the radio is getting ready to drop some knowledge on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Welcome to The Rock.
Sean Connery from The Rock. They're talking about that on the 5 right now, talking about opening up Alcatraz. I don't know what the big deal is. I don't understand what the big deal is. Nancy Pelosi said, it's a tourist attraction. And I don't get it. Let's do this thing.
Yes, you do. Stupid as can be. This could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
Nearly a year after her arrest in the N-word case, a judge clears a Connecticut conservative activist. After prosecutors conceded videotape discrediting their case, a Superior Court judge has dismissed the criminal charge against the New Haven area conservative activist who was accused of using racial epithets against a parking lot attendant last year. Lauren Noble, a white woman and founder of the Buckley Institute, had been charged with using slurs towards Jerno Allen, a black man, during 3 separate incidents at a downtown New Haven parking lot in mid-2023. But videotape shows that the account didn't hold up, according to the prosecution. And this cost her thousands of dollars, which, by the way, if anybody does know Lauren Noble, I would love to talk to her. Get her on the show, because this seems to be one of those things that they wanted to hang over her head. And I would love to know if is there any recourse, because the videotape, according to this story, which is in the Hartford Current, not only was there evidence on day 1 a year ago that she did not do this, they dragged this on forever. It's, again, insane. But this is, of course, needing the narrative to persist, as it were. That's why we call it the stupidest thing I read today. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic. Jason Caterina has your weather, and Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey.
The hour that packs a punch. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
We'll get into the William Tong thing. Let me get these telephone calls out of the way. They've been holding for a bit. 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. I'm laughing at something that Todd said in the chat room about Alcatraz. Rob is in Meriden. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Reese. Thank you for picking up my call as always.
What do you got?
I had a few things. With that girl with that racial slur. That seemed tragic. But anyway, here's what happened to me. I got pulled over, thrown in jail, and they said my headlights were not working on my vehicle. Well, after further review, the cop admitted that my headlights were on, and all charges that I got were dismissed. And that was from a police officer, and he couldn't even hold his head up and look at the judge.
So did you? What was your legal recourse thereafter? Did you take them? I mean, did you sue them civilly?
Oh, I brought them to court. I went to civil court. I went to federal court.
How did you fare?
And it cost me. I spent $50,000.
How did you fare?
The affair is you cannot.
No.
Police officer.
I didn't hear.
There's no accountability.
Well, first of all, if wrongful.
And they said I'm lucky I didn't get shot.
Okay.
And
let's try this again so I can get to the bottom line. So you're telling me that you had no. No, you're not answering my question. So are you telling me that you were falsely imprisoned for headlights that worked? You spend $15,000 of your own money to go after
50.
50. My apologies. $50,000 to sue them civilly. And how did you fare in that lawsuit? Did you win? You lose? What happened?
I walked away with my life, and I didn't walk away with much money.
Okay, no offense. I apologize for not believing that. Okay, it's a real simple. It's a 1-2 punch. It's a 1-2 punch. If you walked out of there and it was wrong and your headlights worked and a police officer, this usually ends with people being suspended. This civil litigation, you always win hands down, and usually the police department settles. Usually. If I can, 9 times out of 10 settles. Okay, they settle. That's all I'm saying. 860-522-WTIC. Let's go to Jeff in Marlboro. Hey, you.
Hey, how you doing, man?
What's up?
Hey, so just a couple things that you've been talking about tonight.
Yes.
Number one, these homeschool kids, they do a lot better at home. But the teachers and everything, they're griping now. They want them back in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
They're just using them as a bargaining tool for more money. You know, they always say, "Oh, we can't do as well with these big class sizes." Now they want them back in the classroom.
It's an incredible point of view. You are right on point, Jeff. That's, again, what is the biggest problem inside the school system? They have all of these kids. They're overwhelmed with students, especially taking in illegals. Right? We've got classes that have jumped from 15 per teacher to the tune of 28 to 35. And now they're saying they want the kids back, which
I want more.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, remember that stuff about overcrowding in the classroom? We're just kidding.
Yeah.
We could take 50 kids.
My other point is I'm not that familiar with the story that you're talking about this woman using a racial slur.
Well, she never used it, but yes, she was accused of it, even though there was video evidence that another woman with a blue SUV who left just after, there was no evidence that this conservative activist ever used the racial slur, much less talk to the attendant.
Yeah. Well, when I was in high school, I got in a fight with a black kid, and we only had like 3 or 4 black kids in our school.
Sounds like Connecticut.
And yep. And he told the principal that I called him that, and there was nothing I could say.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and his mother came into the meeting in the principal's office too, and she was a bulldog. And
isn't that insane? No, you have absolutely. You're accused of something like that, and you have no defense. You can say all day, every day, I would never use that, and you have no one even considering that there's a likelihood that this is a lie. It must be believed no matter what. Dude, I know this all too well, and I feel you. And what was, by the way, if I may ask, did you end up being suspended? Were you punished? And what could you possibly do, or what did you do?
I was suspended for like 2 weeks, and there was nothing I could do about it. And, the kid straight out lied. I had no problem with the color of his skin. I had a problem with the fact that he was a jerk. So,
did it make you? How does it make you feel about liars today, or do you have like a certain animus towards people who lie, just without even a thought? Because that's one of the things that I can't stand. My sister did that to me.
I have a certain problem with people who lie at work a lot to get out of, like, if they made a mistake and they claim that they did, and I know that they did. Yeah, I have a big problem with that.
Yeah, when my sister lied and told my mom that I stole $20 out of her purse to save herself, my mom ended up kicking me out of the house, man. That's how I ended up as a homeless teenager at 15, because of that lie my sister told. I mean, I've since gotten over it, and I've forgiven my sister for it. It's way past me. But I never recovered from that lie, and I never recovered from theft. So my two biggest gripes are people who lie to me and people who steal. I hate those people. And I have absolutely I've got no resolve for, I got no patience for people who are willing to do that at all. I can't do it. So.
Yeah, I know for a fact my younger brother stole money out my mom's purse. And when she found I was missing, she just thought immediately it was me, and it must have been me. And I was so PO'd after that.
You didn't rat out your brother.
No, but I mean, I knew it couldn't have been anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? This is why I'm going to say, Jeff, we need to start snitching. We just need to. It's not doing us any good if we don't snitch. We're just going to have to, we're going to break down and just say, I'm snitching now. I'm snitching. I'm just saying. It'll save us the trouble. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you. You got it. Let's go to Stephen Andover. How are you, sir?
Hey, good afternoon. I was going to address the Mao the Tong self-righteous sanctimonious crap.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I didn't plan on talking about it.
This thing about the lawsuits with cops. I want to talk about that too.
Okay, tell me about your view on William. Tell me your view on William Tong, and if you will, just hold up for me 2 seconds. Let me play the audio of him on MSNBC this weekend.
They intend to make money off of other people's misery, and the explanations that I've heard is, well, we're having trouble with our business, and the only way we can survive is by running ICE air. And if that's the only way you can survive, then it sounds like you've got bigger problems with your business. I've also heard, come on, it's legal. Can't we just operate this unethical, immoral business so we can survive? And the answer is no.
So what do you say to that?
So first of all, that is just pure self-righteous sanctimony on his part, because, A, in the position he's in for a job, he shouldn't be pontificating on that at all, because he handles the civil side of things in the state,
correct,
which would include like labor law, business things. There could be a possibility where he may come up against the airline industry or have to defend or something. So him going down that rabbit hole, to me, I'm hoping there's somebody in the legislature. This should be an ethics complaint from somebody.
Couldn't agree more.
He has so outstepped his bounds here that, no way. And it's not like he's not doing this in his official capacity. He absolutely is. So, for him to pick on them and take shots at them, like I said, is, just absolutely wrong on a whole bunch of levels. But to me, it's an absolute ethics complaint because of the position he holds while he's talking about a business in the state of Connecticut that is otherwise doing everything legally. So he shouldn't even be touching them, period.
Indeed. And you know what I find interesting about that? There's a companion issue in all of this as well. This coming from I think this was from the Hartford Current. This is the headline. It says, Connecticut has filed over a dozen lawsuits versus Trump. Now money is needed. So here's William Tong telling Ned Lamont, hey, I'm filing all these frivolous lawsuits against the Trump administration. By the way, no one asked him to, and now he wants more taxpayer money to go after Donald Trump. And this guy's talking about ethics? This guy's using taxpayer money for his own campaign for governor.
Well, it's funny you said it because the very first thing that he wanted to go sue Trump for was the 14th Amendment issue, if you remember. And he came out and said something to the effect of, well, we should all be reading the Constitution literally, especially the 14th Amendment, and especially all you conservatives. And I remember him picking out conservatives in his soundbite. And he said, you should all be, looking at the 14th Amendment from a literal standpoint. The funny thing is, though, he forgot the part of the 14th Amendment that talks about how if you have to be under the governance, or I forgot what that there's like a little phrase in the middle of it that says, like, you're basically under the governance or, of the United States at the time, which is how they get out of, babies who are born to people who, come to
yeah. You're talking about birthright citizenship. Yeah, his birthright citizenship
that was the very
argument.
First thing that he went after Trump for. Yes, and he made that statement. Oh, conservatives especially, you should be, viewing the 14th Amendment and the Constitution from its literal sense. And I'm thinking, you hypocritical piece of crap. You are so against the Second Amendment. Let's talk about shall not be infringed. If we're going to view the Constitution literally, hey, buddy, let's go back 12 amendments.
Exactly.
And let's talk about one that came out originally, not one that came out, a few years ago.
Yeah.
So,
selective.
God, the dude is such a hypocrite of the highest order. It's unbelievable.
That's who he is. It's his selective use of the Constitution to his own political end is exactly who William Tong is. And this ridiculousness saying that he is going to punish this company because he believes that what they're doing is unethical, even though they've been doing it for quite a while. They did it in the former administration. Now they're doing it under Trump. And now all of a sudden it's immoral and unethical. I don't understand it. What was your last point before we get out of here? You wanted to talk about the...
I heard just the bits and pieces as I got back in my truck.
That's okay.
About, cops being sued.
Oh, yes.
And I would just want to say that I got sued by one of my dispatchers who threatened to commit suicide on duty in the station while we were all working. I had to ship them to the hospital under a 17A503 committal. They turned around and sued me federally under a Fourth Amendment violation.
What?
I got grilled by, I won't mention his name, but the ponytailed, sandal-wearing lawyer for 3 hours in Bridgeport Federal Court over all kinds of nonsense. When the jury came back with a verdict in 35 minutes, the foreman of the jury literally said, this guy saved your life and you turned around and sued him for it. Basically, you should be ashamed of yourself. This was a waste of all of our time.
Yeah, thank God for a jury who saw right through that. And you know what? It was like they didn't even have to look. I wouldn't have bothered as a juror to look at the law in that case. I would have looked at it ethically and morally, for that matter, and saying, I don't think I could find judgment against the plaintiff in this case, who pretty much jeopardized his own well-being to save the life of a fellow person. That almost seems cruel and unusual. So,
well, I lived it. I was there.
Well, good on you. I'm glad that you had some really, really moral and ethical people, since we're talking about that, some really moral people who saw right through that nonsense and spared you any further punitive damages for that. So good luck to you.
Well, thanks.
No problem.
Have a good day, man.
Thank you, man. You too. Yeah, that's just insane. Todd says, Tong talking ethical. Yeah, I find it odd. This guy's father came to this country fleeing the Chinese Civil War between the communists and what was it, the other group? I totally had that in front of me, but this Civil War, I don't even know what side. I don't know. I'm just wondering what sides of that argument his father was on. But then to come in from China, communist China, to come to the United States and actually become a progressive Democrat, I don't know. Somebody should find that picture. I'm going to look for it myself. I got to find it. Anyway, we'll come back. More news, more views. Oh, and if you want to be the last but not least caller of the day, give us a call. 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. If you give us a holler, we will get you a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds. That's courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe. All right, let's get to weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christophers in the BPS Traffic Center.
Stay locked in. Reese on the Radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, we're just beginning the week. It's Monday. It's just one of those weird things with the Monday. You have to come in with all this stuff over the weekend. And it's like the news is always old by the time it gets to Monday. That's the one thing that I've said this over and over again. What is it that I hate about the weekend? It's that there is no news. And it's barely, and when the news is there, it's like, you got to hold it and you got to drag it all the way to the Monday. And it's just never worth it. I don't know. It's just not worth the dragging it. So I just don't. So I got to go into new news and make it exciting and interesting. It just isn't. Yesterday was May the 4th be with you, which, by the way, let me say this while I'm here. Please check out the Sunday version of Reese on the Radio this past week. I wish that the May 4th would have been today as opposed to Cinco de Mayo today. Because for those of you who did check it out, and it looks like a lot of you did, but if you've missed it, go to ReeseOnTheRadio.com to go check it out. And you can listen to my, how do I put it, dissertation of Star Wars in a way that you've never heard it before. I just want to tell you, and those of you who know me, you know me. And I appreciate those people who bring it up. Like Craig contacted me and said, he was one of the only ones, sent me a message and said, May the 4th be with you. He knows. A lot of you don't care. I get it. It's no big deal. I won't take it personal. But the most important movie in that whole thing is The Empire Strikes Back. It's the only movie I care about. I don't care about the Ewoks. I don't care about A New Hope. I don't care about the Farm Boy. There are two people who I like, and that is Han Solo and, of course, Darth Vader. That is it. Those are the only two characters. I don't care for Leia, even though she looks fantastic in the whole bikini thing in Return of the Jedi. Don't care. The Empire Strikes Back is my movie. It's it. It's the movie. Irving Kershner, the director, he made George Lucas look like a guy who shouldn't hold a disposable camera. And if you think that's a lie, check out any of the prequels that George Lucas did. They're all garbage. But Irving Kershner, he knew, he understood. And I'll tell you this is my perfect example of this. For those of you who know The Empire Strikes Back, the line that Han Solo says to Princess Leia, when Leia says, I love you, and Han Solo goes, I know. George Lucas hated that line. That's all you need to know. And yes, I know it was his vision, but I'm just saying, Irving Kershner knew that's why the movie's perfect. Every movie has been compared to it with the exception of Godfather 2. But it is the best film ever made, in my view. It's in my top 5 list. But go check out Reese on the Radio. Go to Reese on the Radio, my Sunday show, and go listen to my breakdown of the greatest movie ever made in the Star Wars franchise, The Empire Strikes Back. Now, we'll get a check of the weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher, who's probably never seen The Empire Strikes Back, so it doesn't matter to have a discussion with him about this.
I did see Princess Leia walking around Fenway Park yesterday, though.
You did? Oh, so you saw some people dressed up like it was Halloween.
Oh,
yeah. They treat it like it's Halloween. It's a big deal. It is a big deal. So, how many people did you see dressed up in Star Wars gear? Did you see a lot or just
Princess Leia? I was at Fenway. That was the only Star Wars character.
Now which garb was she wearing? Was she wearing the white flowy
Yep.
Okay, so she wasn't wearing the bikini.
No, she wasn't in the bikini. A little cool in Boston yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. But did she have the two cinnamon buns on the side of her head?
Yes, as a matter of fact, she did.
Yeah,
as a matter of fact, she did. I said, "Oh my God, it's Princess Leia,"
and you knew that having never seen the movie.
Yeah, I mean, just enough from just seeing it around.
Pop culture references.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Going,
I
there's
totally get
Princess
that.
Leia. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, it's May 4th. I get it now.
I got to hear
understand
Jason
it.
Katarina's take on the whole Star Wars thing. I have a feeling that he probably watched it as a kid and doesn't care after the fact. Maybe he likes Mandalorian. He seems like a Mandalorian guy. I'm just...
All right, you'll have to ask him. Hey.
WTIC weather.
Listen, I'm with you. Empire, definitely the best of the Star Wars movies. Though Part 3 was not too bad because it blended really well with Rogue One. Rogue One, that was probably the best of the alternate movies outside of the original trilogy. And some of the TV stuff they've done afterward has been really good, too. I agree with you there.
It's Reese on the radio. Ask your doctor if common sense is right for you. On News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Adam is sending me a text message saying, don't diss the Ewoks. Listen, I refuse to cater to anybody who supports those miniature Lithuanians from Star Wars Episode 6. I don't care. Those little miniature Wookiees. I never I thought it was a joke. This appealing to the little kids. Well, hey, that's all they look like a bunch of Lithuanians. That's all did you see the garment they wear? You see their clothing? It was completely stolen from the Lithuanian folks. Okay, Rogue One was the only film I actually did like, Bushwhacker. I agree with you there. Rogue One was a good film. And Jason Katarina knows. Empire Strikes Back, that's it. That's the standard bearer. I don't care what anybody says. It just is. But the Ewoks? Come on. As far as I'm concerned, they are a step below Jar Jar Binks. Misa insulted. I'm just telling you. I'm not a fan. Not a fan. As I said on the Sunday show, I don't care about Anakin when he's a kid. I don't care about him as a teenager. I don't care when he falls in love and I don't care. The Empire Strikes Back is the whole thing. And again, I like Han Solo because once he gets into the relationship with Princess Leia, he's done for. And when and you know I have no interest in Darth Vader when he becomes good at the end. Nobody cares about that. Darth Vader's the man. There's a reason why, according to the American Film Institute, he is considered one of the top 10 villains of all time. I don't know why Hannibal Lecter is above him, but Darth Vader is probably one of the greatest villains ever. And I identify with him. I identify. Not that I'm evil. I just identify with him. Anyway, let's take some phone calls. 860-522-WTIC. Adams in East Hartford. How are you, sir?
Hey, Reese, one thing I want to say about you, I like how that I've said before that you don't get, you don't have a chip on your shoulder, even though many blacks were persecuted and picked on.
I wasn't.
Too, but
I wasn't.
No, but what I called about though, two incidences. I don't know if you heard about the case in another state. I forget if it was Kentucky or Ohio or no, I think it might have been Illinois or Missouri, where the black guy had the gun, and he was with some other guys in a stolen car, and so the police shot him to death. But then the father went out and mowed down the deputy.
Yeah, well, no, he didn't mow. He mowed down a different retired police officer entirely. That case. Trust me when I tell you, that case is only going to get burned in certain places. No one is even talking about this story in the mainstream news media. You're absolutely right. This father, after his 18-year-old son was gunned down, took it upon himself to just find any cop and then mowed him down, which, again, is a story that must be paid attention to because what that father did, I mean, they got to throw the book at that father because he killed an innocent man. And it's right. Insane. You're 100% right. But it's not going to get a lot of burn in the news media. And I'm probably going to talk a little bit about this tomorrow because it coincides with a lot of things that I've been seeing online. Since Friday's show, I think it was a young gentleman who called up and was talking about the term black fatigue that's being displayed online. Right. This is playing right into that. And there were a couple of stories that, like, all of a sudden just showed up on my feed based upon that term. And I was astonished that all I had to do was be told about it, and now it's everywhere. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate you. Let's go to Dan, who's in East Windsor. How are you, sir?
Hey, Reese. How you doing?
All right, sir.
Real quick before I get to my point, I just want to let you know, On Sunday, yesterday, I went down to between rounds in South Windsor to get my first round of bagels.
Okay.
I think the lady that waited on me must be a liberal, so she obviously knew what the thing was all about. Boy, was she snippy! You wouldn't believe it. Wow.
She wasn't happy. She wasn't. She was snippy with you, or she was snippy about us.
Just snippy with me, and I think it's because of what I was bringing in.
Oh,
I mean, she obviously knows what that promo was all about.
Oh, that's well. Bless our heart. Anyway, what do you want to add in?
I don't care. But anyway, I just want to comment on two things, just real quick. The woman that was exonerated over the use of the N-word. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that if there was evidence on day one that she didn't do it, then she should be able to sue for two things: false arrest and malicious prosecution.
Clearly.
But then the second thing I wanted to talk about was the this thing with the homeschooling.
Yeah.
What I hadn't heard mentioned so far was I think the ulterior motive for the Democrats wanting the kids back in school is because these days our public schools are not halls of education anymore. They're halls of indoctrination. And if the kids are being homeschooled, they can't be indoctrinated. They won't turn into good little Marxists.
This is true. And I think, look, a huge part of this is the sort of stable platform that the teachers union have sort of stood on for so long, and the way in which they've been able to manipulate and to fundraise and then money launder all of that money that comes from the coffers and then ends up in the pockets of politicians. That is very short-lived with this administration. Donald Trump is going to spend the next 4 years finding the way to separate that ungodly alliance between the unions and Democrat politicians. They know that's coming, and the only thing they're trying to do is to thwart that because, again, what's the reasoning? Because their apparatus as a place to educate children is failing every day. In 52, a rank of 52, I think the United States rank at about 40th, and it's gone. It continues to go down, so they don't have a leg to stand on there. So, in this thing with the homeschooling, I think what Pam brought up earlier was if they can incorporate the homeschooling numbers with the public schooling numbers, then it doesn't look like they're failing anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that too.
So, there's a huge, no, there isn't, this isn't a single issue thing with the union. They are clearly trying to gather these homeschool kids back into the unit, if you will, for a host of reasons. It's not just one. So, thank you, Dan. I appreciate you, sir.
Yeah.
You got it. Let's go to Frank, who's in Newington. How are you, Frank?
Hey, what's up, Reese? Thanks
What's up?
for taking my phone call.
My pleasure, sir.
Hey, lots of wits comparing the Ewoks to Lithuanians. I'm Lithuanian.
Okay, now here's why. So if you remember in the beginning, the first intro, this is the reason why I remember it when I said it as a kid. So when you see the opening scene when when Leia and Luke are going through the forest on those those speeders, and they get separated, right? They get separated, and Leia ends up meeting the first Ewok, and he's got some sort of trouser lederhosen looking thing wrapped around him. And, and if you've seen Lithuanian culture, it's very similar. It had a very German and Lithuanian sort of look about it. And so I started calling them miniature Lithuanians, and people thought that was funny. It's not a slur. I'm just thinking that maybe I'm thinking that George Lucas was looking at Lithuanian outfits and said, wouldn't an Ewok, a big furry puppy, look great in that? It's like dressing your animals. That's what the Ewoks are. This is like dressing your cats and dogs. That's what he was doing. I'll put any amount of money on it, Frank, that if you go to George Lucas's home, he's got a couple of Yorkshires around the house, all dressed up in little vests and jackets, without a doubt.
He probably does, but hey, I wanted to hit something. You guys, everybody's been hitting him out with what's his name, the Attorney General, Tong.
Oh, Tong, yes,
whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah.
You know what? You say how his father came over from communist China and everything.
Yeah.
No, I think with the way he's doing things and everything, I know who his real dad is. It's Dick Blumenthal. because he acts just like Dick Blumenthal did when he was an attorney general. And you know what? And he's obviously eyeing for a spot. So now we know who's going to take Dick Blumenthal's spot when he finally retires.
So you
and
think
the Democrats are going to push? They're going to push him for the person to take over for the spot.
Okay, so you think Tong is angling for a Senate position as opposed to the governor? Because everyone, every person I've talked to says he's angling to be the governor of the state.
Nah. He knows that Blumenthal has been there way too long, and he's just trying to put enough feathers in his hat so when it's time to put the headdress on, he could turn around and do it. Yeah,
I like what you
did
there. That was clever.
He's not going for the governor. He knows, like I said, Blumenthal's been in there way too long, and if you look at Blumenthal's history as attorney general here, Tong is taking a page out of his book.
Okay,
and doing the exact same thing.
You know what? You know what? We'll look into that. But it's not far fetched. Yeah. But thank you, man. You're absolutely right. Thank you. I appreciate you, sir. Yeah. Thank you, Frank.
Care,
you got it. All right. So if you want to call up right now, just get on the phone, 860-522-WTIC. If you get on the phone now, as soon as I see you, I'll put you on a hold, and we'll get you a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds. I promise you that they will not treat you poorly if you go down there. Just get on the phone, 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. First person that gets on the line right now, we will make you a winner by getting you a dozen bagels a month for 6 months. Michael B. says Star Trek is better anyway. Okay. Now, see, Star Trek is the problem. See, listen, they're not the same, okay? They are not the same. The only thing the two of these places occupy that is relevantly the same is space, okay? That's it. It is space. So, they're not the same, nor can you say one is better than the other, okay? Star Trek is very cerebral, okay? It is thought-provoking. There's a lot of dialogue. All right? Star Wars is swashbuckling. It's pirates. It's fencing. It's that whole stuff. It's magic. And this is the reason why it fell off after The Empire Strikes Back. That's all I'm saying. That's the reason why it fell off. Actually, we'll take whoever that last one is in a spot in position number 5. Justin, we'll make him the winner if you could.
Okay, yeah, I'll get his info.
You got it. Thank you. I don't see his name there, so it didn't pop up. So we will make sure that they get that, and thank you for being the last but not least caller of the day. But that's the whole Star Wars thing is it Star Wars is the DEI of space? Okay, I'm not talking to you. What are you talking about? Star Trek is the DEI of space. How could it not be? Everywhere you turn around. I mean, everybody forget about the famous episode where one guy has the black on one side and the white on the other? The whole thing was a social experiment. Gene Roddenberry was a big social experiment. The whole Star Trek thing is flooded with race relations and all that stuff. It's complete DEI. That's all it ever is on Star Trek. That's why I couldn't get into whatever that nonsense was. Oh, the next generation? Ugh. It was boring to me. I was like, ugh, they're talking again. Who does all this talking in space? Just fight somebody. There should be just shooting and fighting. That's all we should see. Even Captain Kirk got into a tussle here and there. They punched some random alien in the face. That's what it was about. That's what the whole thing was. 3 seasons. Star Trek. That's all it was. 3 seasons. The rest of that stuff, it was all this. I mean, seriously. Star Trek, the motion picture. Who was the big V'ger? Goodness gracious. I fell asleep 3 times in that movie. 3 times. It's the most boring stuff ever. J.J. Abrams had to his new remake was much better. Because at least that was action-packed. There were people punching each other in the face.
The person on line 5 hung up before I took their info.
Okay, then let's take number 3. We'll make number 3 the what's name?
Okay.
Rafa Khan is the Empire Strike Back of Star Trek. Thank you, Mark. 100% right. Let's get out of here. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your mind. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. Mark Christopher and Jason Catarina are in the BPS Traffic Center. Good night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you very much, Reese. If you're heading in...
All right, you're good. Good show, Reese. Talk to you later.
You got it, man.
This traffic report is being brought to you by Tab Computer Systems, a 100% employee-owned company. And good news on the Cromwell-Berlin line.
All right, guys, you're 100%. Rafa Khan, that was the best. That was the best. I will say that was. See you in 21 hours, Lori. DEI of space. Michael B., I'm putting you on punishment for that one. How dare you. All right, guys, I will see you mañana. God bless you.